Hi there, this is Heather Estes, and I'm a teacher for the Cultures class for grades 1 and 2. And this week we talked all about the Inuit people. This is one of the first people groups, and it's also a Native American group, Native Canadian group, and really all over the Arctic Circle as we learned. So this is a really cool culture to learn about. And we also checked out a cool celebration in honor of this group, but in honor of everybody, Earth Day. Happy late Earth Day to you. It was celebrated Wednesday, April 22nd, and there's different celebrations all over the world because of that. So let's check out what we did in class, and I'm going to turn my camera around and check things out with you. Okay, so here we have our story of the week. We have the polar bear sun. You can check this video out of me rereading this story to you. And as you can see, it's all about the Inuit people. It's based on a story that's been told over and over again in this culture. So here is the Inuit old woman with her newfound polar bear son she takes in as a cub. So in the story, we go through and see the different pictures of the landscape of where the Inuit people are from. Now, they span all over the world, but mainly around the Arctic Circle areas of Alaska, Canada, even Greenland and Siberia around that as well. Many people still live around that area and still live in some of the ways that these groups of people decided to live. We talked about a lot of the things we saw inside this book. So, for example, the clothes that they would be wearing, the transportation that you might see, some dog sleds, and even the food, the environment, the kinds of things that they would have to use around them, the animals that might be nearby. Little polar bear guy. Well, little then. And then we talked about the food that they might eat and the different resources that they'd have to reuse or maybe try to find ways of saving things and recycling things together. So a lot of that information we found is from the story. So what we did was look through a lot of what you see in the pictures, and then we talked about it as a class. So that was one thing that we did in our class. Here is an amazing picture that I loved sharing. It's from an interactive notebook page that I found, and I can send this in Canvas where you'll find all the information you need for our course. So just to give you an idea about the Inuit people, it says the Native Americans called the Inuit lived in the northwest coastal region of the United States. They spread up into Alaska and Canada. They lived in extremely cold, windy, and frigid areas with temperatures below freezing for most of the year. And then we learned about these stone statues or landmarkers that they used, and they're so cool. They're called the Inukshuk. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but I think it's really cool. Okay, so this is the Inuit people, like we said. And this was our page that we worked on together in class. A little busy, I know. I'm so sorry. Between internet connectivity issues and all that. Anyway, so again, we have Inuit. And another name that people would use for this group of people would be Eskimo. But unfortunately, that's actually not a very nice name. I learned while reading some of our information that Eskimo can mean someone who eats raw meat, which, that's kind of not a nice name to call someone who eats raw meat. So the preferred name of this group is Inuit. And so I accidentally crossed out foods. We talked about clothing, but the kind of clothing that they might be wearing, obviously boots, a parka, which is this big furry coat that would be waterproof and windproof for the elements, and they obviously need to have some gloves on, and you can even see that in the picture of the book that we were reading. Then we drew a quick picture wearing the parka, gloves, boots, things like that, all covered. Usually made out of animal skin. Where do they live? In the Arctic Circle. I added later that they can be in Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and Siberia, and we marked just quickly where they might be around the world. Here's where we are. What kind of homes would they have? Well, they would have a small hut just like they would have here in these pictures, but unfortunately, they did not live very close to a lot of forests when you live way up here, so wood might be a big commodity. So we learned about igloos. So an igloo, as we wrote down here, we see here identify two objects below, how they were used. An igloo can be a shelter that's used out of snow and ice to protect from the wind and cold. We didn't write this down during class time, but I knew that that was something important to remember, so we added that later. Okay, so that's about their homes, where they live, and then some resources. So this really goes with our idea of Earth Day as well. I really love talking about this culture because they are extremely resourceful. So they had to live in ice. They had a lot of animals nearby that they would reuse and use every piece of the animal. Everything from like whale blubber to the super tiny bones made to make needles. Everything from their animal skins and fur and meat, obviously, to use for food. And then they would use these rocks. So going back to our picture here, the stone statues that you see, along with our super cool picture that I found, those would be the Inukshuks. Inukshuk is a stone landmark to mark a path. This is something really cool that you see in different parts of Alaska and Canada, and they're still standing today on a lot of places, and it's something that would be a really cool craft that you could do at home even. You can make your own Inukshuk. So what's interesting is when you're in this barren landscape and you have to cross for miles and miles to get to another tribe or perhaps to a new hunting area where there might be a lot of fish, things like that. There's no road and there's no way to know where you're going. A lot of the times in the summertime, the sun would not set. It would be bright all the time. Or in the dark, you might have a long, dark winter. Where are you supposed to know where to go? There's no stop signs or street signs or anything. So they would use these things, the Inukshuks, sometimes made into a person, as you can see, but these small or large stone statues that would tell you, oh, you're on the right track. This is the path that you're supposed to be on. Turn left here, turn right here, wherever you need to go. So that was a cool landmarker. Okay, so they were very resourceful. They had ice they used a lot of different animals. Then they had rocks that they even used. And I wrote this later after class was over, but just to review the things we learned about the Inuit people. The Inuit people are very resourceful. They ate whale, seal, polar bear, and lots of fish. Their diet was mostly fish, mostly from the ocean or nearby lakes that they would find. And they very much survived well in the cold. They were so resourceful that they survived in probably the coldest areas where people could live on the planet for thousands of years. And they were very good at it. So that is about the Inuit people. And this is just something that was able to be printed out and you can use as a reference for students to see what they're learning. It's nothing that they have to keep forever, of course, but it's something that I found cool, and it can even make it into a coloring page if you'd like. But again, the best word to use for this culture would be the Inuit culture, not just fun Eskimos and things like that. Although if you're thinking of an Eskimo, that's probably what it might look like. Okay, so moving on, we have our super cool story. Our amazing picture of the Inuit landscape and the Inukshuk. So I'm going to email or add this to Canvas. This is where I got some of my information and some things that you can use at home. So this is a fact sheet that we looked at. It talks about some transportation, what they used in their villages and towns to reduce, reuse, and even recycle, just like we were talking about for Earth Day. It gives a little bit about their culture here. And then you can even answer some questions if you do some reading. That is just totally up to you. So this is something that I can send to you via Canvas as well. And there's so many things about Earth Day that you can look at too. So I'm going to turn this around. Hi again. So just to review, our class was mainly focused on the Inuit people found in Alaska and Canada. They are still around today, of course. They may have, modernized and moved into cities and things like that. But the reason why I talked about this culture along with Earth Day is because the celebration of Earth Day on April 22nd every year is to make sure us as a culture of human beings make sure we are reusing and recycling everything that we do as much as possible, because we want to make sure that it's our responsibility, not just as children but as people, to take care of this world again and again so we can make it a better place to live. And the environment and the air we breathe, the water we drink, and even the energy we use. It will help save not only with the Inuit people, but all of us. So that's just inspiring with talking about Earth Day. If you want to find out more Earth Day links or the amazing projects and ideas that you can do linked to this group of people and Earth Day, please check out Canvas, and I will show you all the things that I found and things that will inspire you in your learning. If you want to check out the book, you're welcome to check out my YouTube video as well as me reading the story aloud. Beautiful book to read. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.